The world's biggest and toughest prison for gangs. El Salvador, CECOT. They called it La Bestia Blanca, the White Beast. Nestled in the desolate, volcanic terrain of Tecoluca, El Salvador stood the world's biggest and most feared prison. CECOT, Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, built not just to house criminals, but to crush the spirit of entire gangs. The prison loomed like a dystopian fortress, spanning 236 acres, surrounded by electrified fences, drone-patrolled skies, and robotic watchtowers. Inside, over 40,000 inmates, many of them ex-leaders of the MS-13 and Barrio 18 cartels, lived in perpetual darkness, silence, and dread. But among them, one man had a different purpose. Lucas Sombra Morales wasn't a gangster. He was a ghost agent, born in the barrios of San Miguel, trained in Havana, and recruited by a coalition of international intelligence units. His mission: infiltrate CECOT, gather intelligence on how gangs still operated from behind the walls, and expose the secret alliances that extended even into foreign governments. He let himself get caught on purpose, under a fake identity and with a planted MS-13 tattoo on his back. He staged a violent robbery that made international headlines. Within a week, he was stripped, shackled, and tossed into CECOT under the number Inmate 50217Z. What he found inside shocked even him. CECOT was brutal but efficient. Inmates had no names, only numbers. No visits, no sunlight, no talking. The prison operated like a hive, controlled by AI-powered systems, emotionless guards, and a warden named Victor Arriaga, a man once rumored to have been trained by Russian special forces. But it wasn't the silence or violence that unsettled Lucas. It was the discipline. MS-13 members and rival gangs were no longer brawling in the open. Instead, they were collaborating, whispering in code through body gestures, blinks, and Morse tap signals through the pipes. Something big was brewing inside. A new alliance. One that could unite the gangs of the Americas into a single cartel-like empire. They called it La Resurrección, the Resurrection. Lucas earned trust by surviving a staged stabbing and saving a key figure named Cholo Grima, a former Barrio 18 general turned prophet behind bars. Grima led Cell 88, a secret collective of elite prisoners with ties to outside syndicates in Guatemala, Honduras, the US, and even parts of Africa. Cell 88 believed CECOT was not their grave, it was their cradle. Using smuggled nanotech chips and repurposed prison wiring, they began transmitting encrypted data out of the prison. Lucas discovered that Cell 88 had infiltrated the prison's central AI core, dubbed Cerberus, and were manipulating meal deliveries, surveillance blind spots, and even guard schedules. They weren't just surviving CECOT, they were planning to control it. Victor Arriaga suspected something but was too confident in his systems. Until one night, every cell door in Block F opened silently. No alarms, no lights, just shadows moving through hallways. Lucas followed the shadows, documenting everything. Grima led a council of resurgence, where former enemies pledged allegiance to a new order. A digital cartel that would no longer rely on drugs or arms, but on data, cryptocurrency, and cyber warfare. But Lucas triggered a silent alert. Arriaga stormed in with riot drones, but it was too late. Grima's men detonated EMP bombs hidden in food carts. The AI core shut down. Cameras blinked to black. For 19 minutes, CECOT belonged to the inmates. Arriaga was captured, humiliated, and paraded before the cameras the inmates controlled. The footage was streamed live through hijacked networks in 5 countries. CECOT became a message: we're still in control. In the chaos, Lucas was extracted by an emergency drone sent by his agency. He was bruised, disoriented, but alive. He returned with hard drives full of secrets, prison layouts, communication logs, and the plan for a transnational gang government. But by the time intelligence forces moved in, CECOT was back to normal. The inmates returned to their routines. Arriaga was never seen again. Officially, nothing had happened. Behind the silence, La Resurrección was real. Lucas tried to expose it globally, but politicians buried the report. Too dangerous, too embarrassing, too late. CECOT still stood, sterile, quiet, unbreakable on the outside. But inside, it had become the beating heart of a new global gang empire, forged in silence and steel. 3 months later, coordinated cyber attacks shut down energy grids in Los Angeles, Panama City, and Madrid. Anonymous messages appeared on screens. From inside your strongest prison, we built our future. The world blamed rogue hackers, but Lucas knew better. CECOT had never been a prison. It had always been a laboratory for... Lucas Morales had returned to his agency, his body intact, but his mind fractured. He spent his days decoding smuggled data from CECOT, and his nights haunted by the words of Cholo Grima. You don't break us by locking us up, you focus us. No country officially acknowledged the incident. The Salvadoran government released a statement claiming there were minor disturbances at CECOT due to a system upgrade. Victor Arriaga was declared missing during reassignment. But behind the curtain, a coalition of intelligence agencies, led by the CIA, Interpol Cyber Division, and Latin American countergang units, assembled a secret task force, Project Lantern. Lucas was named lead operative. Their objective: hunt down the network of La Resurrección before it sparks a new global criminal age. In neighborhoods across the Americas, strange events began unfolding. Gang-related violence dropped, but so did police intel. Traditional criminal activity gave way to something more organized, strategic, militarized. In Los Angeles, 3 rival gangs merged overnight and adopted a new name: El Circulo. In Honduras, an encrypted video surfaced of a masked man pledging allegiance to La Voz, a voice identical to Cholo Grima. In Lagos, Nigeria, a cyber theft ring hacked into the central bank system using malware that had first appeared in CECOT. Project Lantern traced these changes to a central server bouncing between 5 countries. It used prison blueprints and gang insignias as encryption keys. The message inside wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. While the world focused on stopping attacks outside, inside CECOT something more terrifying had begun. Grima was no longer just a gang leader. He had become a spiritual icon, blending revolution with religion. His followers called him El Redentor, the Redeemer. Rituals began to replace violence. Silence became holy. Tattoos were replaced with QR-coded skin patterns readable only by gang-issued lenses. Every 2 weeks, encrypted books were smuggled out, part prophecy, part blueprint, known as the Gospel of the New Order. The prison had become a temple, and the gangs inside weren't planning an escape. They were training for conquest. Lucas knew the real war wouldn't be a prison riot or a gang shootout. It would be a systemic collapse, engineered from inside the most secure prison on Earth. Lucas was sent to Argentina to interrogate a captured courier of La Resurrección, a teenager with implanted subdermal storage. The boy didn't speak, not with his mouth, but when scanned, his neural implant projected a holographic image, the face of someone Lucas knew from CECOT. It was Captain Nestor Ruiz, the CECOT security chief who had trained Lucas in the intake process. Ruiz had defected. He had been working with Cell 88 all along, helping map the prison's blind spots and fake power failures. He now commanded a ghost unit, ex-soldiers, cartel snipers, and AI engineers. And worse, he had smuggled out a copy of CECOT's AI